doing push-ups. I've been doing sit-ups. I've been doing chin-ups. I've been doing pull-ups. I threw up once, but I'm okay now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to a Tuesday edition of the Ysn Power Hour. My name is DJ Oakley. Thanks for joining us here for the show today at 3:30. Coming up on this beautiful, I say beautiful because it's above 30 degrees. This beautiful Tuesday, we're going to have a local official for the last 25 years. Jeremy Atkins Hill will join the show, and we're going to talk about all the different kind of facets of officiating. And certainly we're going to talk about the officiating shortage that our area and many areas face across the country. And what do you do if there's no officials? What happens when there's nobody to blow the whistle and call the games anymore? We're going to talk to Jeremy about that. That's coming up at 3:30. But of course, up until that point, we got a lot to talk about, including our what is today's happenings on this day in sports. So without further ado, here we go. Today, March 15th, 2022, on this day in 1978, the Oakland A's trade Vita Blue to the Giants for seven players, and $390,000 to go along with it. So one player for 8 pieces of commodity. That is what we call a haul in the business, and the reason that I brought this up, first off, it's ridiculous, and I haven't even looked up what the players were, who the players were, and how it worked out for the A's or the Giants. But more so than that, it's a direct tie-in to what I'd like to talk about today, which is my favorite time of the year. It is March Madness, and with March Madness, you have spring training. With spring training, you have NFL free agency, and a little cherry on top this year. I mean, I guess you can call it a blessing at this point because the MLB lockout's over. The fact that no baseball player was allowed to sign with any team or be traded from any team to another team, it just adds to the chaos that is March Madness this year. Watching all these players sign yesterday, from the NFL side, I don't know what is more intriguing at this point, whether it's the NFL signings or the Major League Baseball signings. It all kind of kicked off on Sunday when Tom Brady came back, and there's a lot of people, and to me, Tom Brady it's much like John Cena from the WWE a few years ago. One of the most polarizing individuals in all of sports is Tom Brady. You either love him or you hate him, but either way, you have to respect what he's done in his line of work. And he announced that he was coming back after a 40-day retirement. He's back to work, and there's jokes about the gas prices and things of that nature and the inflation. And that's why he's got to come back to work. I think Tom Brady's coming back because, well, let's just face it. Tom Brady is the uber competitor, and he's just looking to get back in the saddle once again. He's not ready to hang up the cleats quite yet. I don't think it's too far off, but the dude is still playing at an elite level. Threw for over 5,000 yards last year. And who's going to stop him? I mean, who's to say he doesn't throw for 5,900 this year, 6,000, or another MVP campaign, and the stars align, and maybe he wins another Super Bowl. So we'll see how that goes. But the NFL free agency has been absolutely bonkers to me. When you look at some of the moves and wiggles that some of these teams are making right now, that's hot off the press, the Browns are looking to get down with Deshaun Watson. They're looking to give up a lot to get Deshaun Watson. That's how much stock they're putting into it. And, it's funny because all these people that defended Baker Mayfield all last year are now completely on the Deshaun Watson wagon. And my thing is more along the lines of, where is the point of no return for Baker Mayfield now? I mean, you're actively going and talking to a guy who's not even promised to play this season. There's rumors that he still could get suspended for 8 games or more to this season. So you're going to give away your entire franchise for a guy that you don't know if he's even going to be around or how long he's going to be around this year. Now, listen, as a Steelers fan, I'll be honest with you. I was intrigued by the notion of having a guy like Deshaun Watson. Do I like his off-the-field stuff? Absolutely not. But he is a top 5 quarterback when he's playing his type of football. So I just think it's interesting that the Browns have their franchise guy. And if you ask the majority of Browns fans, Baker is their guy. He's the guy that changed the culture. He's the guy that did this and that and the other. And they're willing to part ways with him. I know it's going to be a steep haul to give the Texans, and you're talking about probably the better part of your franchise in one fortune or another, one fashion or another. And I'm interested. I'm really interested to see if Watson comes to Cleveland, what the dynamic is going to be in that locker room, because I hear it's not great to begin with, and you lose who I think was the most influential player in that locker room in Jarvis Landry, and you bring in a guy in Amari Cooper that hasn't had a whole lot of success inside the 2 locker rooms he's been in, and you bring him into a third one, and the Cowboys were pretty quick to cut ties with Cooper. So a little to be determined on Amari Cooper and what his impact is going to be. But I know a lot of Browns fans are excited, as they should be. He's a top-tier talent. When he's playing well, he was one of the highest-ranked wide receivers coming out of college football and made his way to the Raiders and then, of course, the Cowboys, and now he's with the Browns. So a lot of stuff to talk about. The Browns are cutting cap room for something. Something is going to be happening. There's going to be a splash to be had in Cleveland. And meanwhile, while Cleveland's sitting there cutting the fat and cutting all the opportunities that they have to really add on to what they had last year, which I thought was a pretty successful season. Couldn't really finish strong, but I mean, they looked good, and on paper, they were to me one of the favorites to win the AFC North. While they're just cutting seemingly everybody and hurting everybody's feelings, the Steelers are adding offensive lineman after offensive lineman. They add Mitchell Trubisky yesterday, which, do I think he's going to be a franchise quarterback? Absolutely not. Do I think he's a great bridge quarterback? Absolutely. The Steelers have shored up their offensive line. And right now, the average age on the offensive line is 24 years of age. You look at that, and there's some pretty strong guys. They brought over a young man from Warren Harding who played for the Bears, and name escapes me. I apologize right now. I'm flying without a net, and they brought over the center from Minnesota, and that was a big problem for the Steelers last year, was their offensive line, and a lot of people thought that they were going to bolster it in the draft or create it in the draft, and they've done it in the first 2 days of free agency. Oh, and by the way, they got their quarterback. I think will start. I mean, if you're going to spend $14 million on a guy over the course of 2 years, he's probably going to be your starter. And if not, and I still haven't seen the details of the deal, but I got to think that's probably the first year's heavy on the payment, and the second year is if he doesn't work out, you can cut him and take your chances in the draft, or worst case scenario, you might be able to trade him even if he has a decent year, and you can find yourself trading up in the draft next year to maybe get a CJ Stroud. That's my guy. I'd love to see them get Stroud or the quarterback from Alabama. I think the draft is a lot more fruitful next year for a team that, like the Steelers, that need a franchise quarterback. But who knows? Mitch Trubisky might be that guy. He might shock the world and it's going to be fun to watch. But looking at what has been done across the board already in the NFL, just kind of taking a look down the list. We have the DJ Reed signs with the New York Jets. McCain is re-signing with Washington. Russell Gage is looking to sign with the Buccaneers to play with Tom Brady. There's just a lot of moves. A lot of moves going on right now. The Broncos are going to be players. I know that the Falcons are looking to be in on Deshaun Watson as well. They just re-signed their kicker, Young-Ho Koo. So, not exactly what you think is a huge addition or maintenance. But, listen, when those frosty days in January and February and you need a kicker, I think the Falcons have a pretty doggone good one. They keep him. James White re-signs with the Patriots. James White's been in the when he got selected in 2014, so he's been around for a little bit. I feel like he's a little bit older than that because the Patriots just continue to kind of cycle through those running backs year after year. J.D. McKissick intends to sign a 2-year, $7 million deal with the Buffalo Bills. So that's another running back in their stable that they'll be able to utilize. Chase Daniel will be a backup is signing back with the Chargers on a 1-year deal for $2.25 million. What else we have? Marcus Williams reached an agreement with the Ravens, 5-year, $70 million deal. So Ravens trying to shore up that defense at safety. I don't think they'll ever be able to get back to the Ed Reed days, but Marcus Williams not a bad addition to their team. Here's one that I was waiting for. Andrew Whitworth, who we all saw won the Super Bowl, is officially going to retire. He's going to go out on top. So he ends his 16-year career and goes out on top with the Rams. Congratulations to him. Malik Collins is signing again with the Texans, 2-year, $17 million. Yeah, you've got Randy Gregory agreed to a 5-year, $70 million deal with the Broncos. He was formerly on the Cowboys. Here it is, James Daniels. That's my guy from Warren Harding. So he's back in the area and he's playing for the Steelers, and he plays guard, but he also plays center, which is perfect for the Steelers because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for that position versatility and being able to play up and down the line. What do we have here? Yeah, Falcons joining in to get Watson. The Lions are going to re-sign Charles Harris to a 2-year deal. Browns released J.C. Tretter. If the Steelers already hadn't signed a center at that point, I would love to see Tretter in black and gold. I think he's a great center, but I know the Browns are immensely high on one of their guys that they have in camp, and I think it's Harris, if I'm not mistaken, that they're big on. But that's, again, the Browns are clearing space for something to go on. Connor Williams signing a 2-year, $14 million deal with the Dolphins, formerly a Cowboy. You look at some of this stuff. You can listen. We're supposed to be local, but I love this time of year. It's one of my favorite times of the sports year because you get to see so many different faces in so many different new places, and it's fun. And then baseball. You look at what baseball. They've almost had that cusp of being able to go in and Andrew McCutchen signing with the Brewers yesterday. I was sitting next to Steve Leslie and Donnie Riccatelli last night, and just kind of pouring my heart out to them because the Pirates they made a move. They got a guy that was in the All-Star game in 2019, so he's not too far removed, but he's a first baseman, and you've got a relief pitcher. They're not going to do a whole lot, but guys like me wish they would go and sign an Andrew McCutchen, or wish they would go and sign some of these bigger names, or be in the Freddie, the first baseman for the Braves. Well, they're obviously not in that. Freddie Freeman. They're obviously not in that sweepstakes anymore because they went out and picked up somebody off the scrap heap like they always do. So I'm okay with the Pirates being in that boat. I've come to terms with it. I don't think that Bob Nutting is ever going to allow anybody to spend money in his organization. But as a Pirates fan, it's fun to see these other names just starting going. I'm all in on the Freddie Freeman sweepstakes. I want to see who comes out with him Freddie Freeman, to me, one of the best guys in baseball. So you root for him, you cheer for him, and if he goes into a team that maybe isn't the Yankees or isn't the Red Sox or a team like that, the Cubs, you root for them a little bit, right? You root for them to succeed. Just like I felt like everybody was rooting for the Braves last year to win the 2 years ago to win it was last year to win the World Series. So a lot of stuff going on here locally. Everybody's getting ready for spring sports, gearing up as all our teams are done. It's all finalized, and everybody has turned the page, except for us here at YSN on the 2022 basketball season and the like. Want to give a shout out to the Lady Bowlers from Boardman as well. While we have a chance, they not the ending they look forward to their careers, the seniors there, not the ending they look forward to their season, but they showed up and showed out. The lanes were tough this past weekend for them. Didn't end up winning the state title, but they certainly represented very well the Youngstown area and all of us here. They had back-to-back AAC championships in bowling and district championships and sectional championships, and just a great job. So kudos and congratulations to the Boardman Lady Bowling team, because they've had so much success, and it sounds like the future is very, very bright on the lanes for the Boardman Spartans girls bowling team. So hopefully that continues. Bowling's starting to be a real big sport around here. People are starting to get kicked up again. So congratulations again to them. What else we have? We have, again, if you just joined us, Jeremy Atkins Hill will be joining us at 3:30. That's in about 10, 15 minutes or so here on the show. He's been a local official for the last 25 years. Started off in Little League Baseball. Now he pretty much, you can see him anywhere. Also the assistant coach to the East Palestine boys basketball team this year. So he's really trying to expand his horizons on what he wants to do. He's been on YSN and announced, and he's done a great job. And the reason I'm having Jeremy on is he's a fresh voice. And I'm not saying that we're tired of hearing from people and about people, but Jeremy is seeing things from a different lens, I think, that some of the officials that have been in it for 50 years, 60 years are not able to kind of clarify. Jeremy is a forward thinker. He's a guy that constantly is making sure that he sees it from your perspective as well as the other. And I think that's what makes up a good official. Some of these officials, especially lately, and we're going to talk about this, have been quick to pull the trigger on techs in basketball and ejections. From fan standpoint, we saw one in Salem this year that was absolutely ludicrous. A friend of the show was ejected from his seat because he called someone his nickname, is what he did, and the referee heard it a certain way and had him removed from the building. And I'm not saying that we're gonna bash referees by any standpoint or imagination, stretch of the imagination, but I will say this: we need to do a better job of getting inside their head and understanding what they go through on a night-to-night basis. And I'm excited to have Jeremy on the show to do exactly that, because he's a younger guy. He's a Palestine boy. He graduated, I think, a year ahead of me. So it's one of those things where you get into the mind of a guy that's under 40 that is kind of a unicorn. There's not a whole lot of the under 40 crowd that's wearing the stripes nowadays. So excited to have that in just a little bit, about 10 minutes from now, here on the YSN Power Hour. The other thing I want to talk about, these All-Star games, right? So I'm getting a little, not heat at all, but we've been receiving some interesting comments about all of the All-Star games and coaches and officials, parents alike, saying there's too many All-Star games going on. And I've got to kind of stand up here, and not because we have one, but every parent wants that one more time that their kids lace up the shoes, right? And to be in an All-Star game is something to be proud of, to take a lot of pride in. And it's it's an honor to be selected for these All-Star games, because not just anyone is invited. And it's a great opportunity for these kids to play against competition perhaps they haven't seen before, or a different level of competition. And parents, and we've heard it a lot lately, especially as these banners are coming out and these graphics are coming out announcing the players for our All-Star games. There's 2 All-Star games last night. There's another one tonight in the Al Beach. There's another one tomorrow in the Mahoning versus Trumbull, the Booba. And then, of course, you have another one, and then you have the YSN All-Star game on the 26th. And people are saying, well, there's another 5 games potentially for some of these kids that are playing. And my response is, while I understand it could be a headache, imagine if you're a senior parent who only wants their kid to play one more game, who only wants to see him play as much as they possibly can, not just one more game. If you can see your kid play one more game, and then one more game, and then one more game, and let them get all the accolades they possibly can, why would you complain about that? Why is that a bad thing? I really think in my heart of hearts, I know everybody's busy, but if my kid has been excelling in the classroom as well as on the floor or in the field or whatever that may be, whatever the playing surface is, I want to see my kid play as much as they can, because you never know. We don't all get to choose when we hang it up. We've talked about that on this show several times. Not everybody gets the Disney movie of, I'm going to play out my senior year in college, and that's when I know it's done. It doesn't happen that way. I think it comes back to being grateful for being able to watch the very thing that your son or daughter has put their life into, their complete, blood, sweat, heart, and all of that stuff that goes into that category. They put it into that, and they're being rewarded for that. I think that we need to take a step back and understand that, while these All-Star games can sometimes get a little bit, okay, how many more of these are going to pop up out of nowhere? I think it's a good opportunity to really just sit back in the stands. A lot of times, many times, they're very calm. It's a laid-back atmosphere, especially, when you think about what we're trying to do. We're not looking to get anybody hurt. We're not looking to really even play a whole lot of defense. We're just looking for kids to shoot around and lace them up against, somebody one last time. If you want to show off your jersey or wear your threads one more time for these seniors, awesome. We love seeing it. But I think we've got to the point, I really think we're getting to the point where everybody's complaining about everything. We haven't remembered, somewhere between, now and, prior to the pandemic, people forgot how to be grateful for things. And I think that's a lot of the issue right now is we need to start just understanding and being more grateful and more, I don't know, sitting back and enjoying things a little bit, because we're not always going to have that opportunity to do that. And, parents, I know that you'll look back in a few months, especially the senior parents, you're going to look back in a few months and wish that you could see your kid play one more game or again, lace them up one more time. And, with not having to remember plays or do anything like that, just go out and play. Just have some fun. And I think that's why what we do is so important. We try to be the last hurrah, so to speak, for all the athletes, and be the last time they actually wear their jersey. That's how it goes. That's how it goes. And I understand that people aren't necessarily pointing at us and saying, shame on you for having an All-Star game, but take it easy on the others too. I mean, this is it could be worse. There could be no All-Star games. It could go back to the days of no basketball, and people are wondering what they're going to do. This is sports. You're supposed to enjoy it, and these All-Star games are truly a reward, I think, no matter what they look like, as long as they're run well and it promotes the kids as opposed to something else, or in our case, a charity, and the kids get an opportunity to take part in that, and they get some warm and fuzzies from it. So I'm excited. I just think people need to take a step back and not that I'm anybody, but take a step back and realize and appreciate, what the process is and all the All-Star games. If your kid is in 3 or 4 All-Star games, congratulations. That's something a lot of parents would love to see, and just, scale it back on the complaining a little bit. Appreciate it a little bit more and enjoy the ride, because in 2 weeks it's over. It's done for that. You don't get another shot. So hopefully you can enjoy that. Let's get to the comments here and see what we got. Jimmy Joe Savage, well put. Enjoy watching yours and other kids showing off their skills. Yeah, absolutely, Jimmy Joe. It's fun to be able to do things like this. It's fun to be able to highlight these kids and give them another shot. One of the things that people don't realize that we're doing is we're inviting college coaches to our game, right? There's with the way that recruiting has been over the past year and a half, 2 years, from the high school to the college level, it has been an absolute nightmare for these college kids. We're inviting openly as our guests. They don't even have to pay. We're inviting these college coaches to come and see, because if you're there and you're going to see 46 different kids or 50 or whatever that number is from beside, it's like a buffet, right? You just sit down with your notes and you can write, hey, love this kid. He or she is a junior, or he or she is a senior, not committed at this point. And you can fill up your roster with local talent from the YSN family of schools. And I think that's the one thing that we do that I can really, really appreciate. And one of the things that I really strive to do is give an opportunity for these kids that hadn't been seen or were still looking to be seen, so late in the year. Or, we've got freshmen playing in this game. We've got sophomores, juniors, and seniors. So it's a great leg up on the competition for them as well. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Jeremy Atkins Hill will join the show. We'll talk about officiating in every aspect. We want to hear from you as well. Drop a comment or two in the comments section, and we will be back right here on the Ysn Power Hour after a word from these great sponsors.
Every customer has a story, and at Greenwood Chevrolet, we are committed to making sure it ends with you in the right vehicle. I get to be part of somebody's adventure, whether it's buying a car for the first time, helping them get approved, or finding the perfect car for their budget. I'm proud that people trust me with their finances. They trust me to take care of them, and they trust me with their story. I'm Tracy, and I'm ready to go the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Working with your family can be stressful at times. But because they're family, you know that you're going to get a loving, honest answer, even when things don't make sense, to any problem. Dealing with Medicare can be confusing and overwhelming. That's why here at Myers Family Insurance, we do our best to give you honest and caring answers to all of your questions. Family, like Medicare, isn't always perfect, but when you put others first, the results can be amazing.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance.
Storm season.
I think we're under the gun for some heavy storms over the next couple of hours.
And Storm Tracker 21 is ready.
This is probably the one we're keeping a closer eye on.
On air.
And locally, we're going to have a lot of eyes on our area.
Online.
All right, let's talk high-risk futurecast and the timing of this weather.
On social media and on our app.
Notice we'll have scattered showers on Thursday.
Stay ready with Storm Tracker 21.
The severe weather threat now through around sunset this evening.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions.
WRS Insurance Solutions is a local independent agency that specializes in life, Medicare, long-term care, and disability products. Call us at 330-953-3722 or visit us at wrsinsuranceSolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Ysn Power Hour. DJ Yoakley with you. We're going to be joined in a minute by Jeremy Atkins Hill, again, a 25-year official of local sports here. And we're going to talk about all the great things and some of the complicated things that referees and officials have to deal with now in today's age. And obviously, with it's very well known that there's an officiating shortage that is taking over here. And what are things going to look like in the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? What is that going to look like? Jeremy's a guy under 40 that's, again, like a unicorn in this era, so to speak. There's not a whole lot of guys like Jeremy out there that are representing the stripes. So at this time, we'll see if we can go ahead and bring him in. I think he's just going to be audio today. So unless he's got video, I think he's on the road. So we'll try to pop him up Here we go. Jeremy, can you hear me?
Gotcha, DJ. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear. We'll get your graphic up so people can see your handsome face. So, first thing that I'm going to lead up with, Jeremy, is talk to me about how officiating has changed since 1997 when you started and 2022 as it sits today.
Yeah, I think the biggest change is the overall education aspect, right? So officials nowadays aren't just the enforcers of the rule per se, but we've largely taken on an educational role on the field, on the court, wherever you may be, educating the coaches as well as the players nowadays. And for me, that's been the biggest shift.
And then what's crazy is you think about, you talk about JV is one of the things that you've done a lot of. And you can do that aspect of coaching kids on the fly, let's say in a basketball game, right? But when you get to the varsity level, how much coaching can you really do without just blowing the whistle?
Yeah, we call it preventative officiating today, right? That's the new term in today's world. That get your hands off the back, get your feet moving, quit grabbing, that sort of stuff. Right. And that's stuff those kids got to know coming into the game. But at the volume that we see it today, compared to 10, 15, 20 years ago, they don't know it. Because if they knew it, they wouldn't be doing it at the volume that they do it in. So, and that's how you do it, right? Less whistle, more mouth. That kind of stuff.
So the question I have for you is what made you get into officiating in the first place? What is it that drives you and says, listen, I want to be the guy that's never right 100% of the time?
Yeah. Yeah, DJ, my parents raised me to be a helper. And any way I could help out, and even back then there was a shortage, right? So for me it was the drive to be involved and stay involved and not to get out of that officiating or that sports community.
I love that. And being able to grow with it, how challenging has it been just from a standpoint of dealing with parents and coaches and things of that nature, constantly second-guessing your judgment, your opinions, and obviously your rulings?
Man, I tell you what, COVID has released a beast. The amount of disgruntled parents has never been at an all-time high as it is now. And I think just all that pent-up frustration from being locked up for a couple of years, right? It is incredibly challenging because on top of trying to help manage the game and keep things moving and keep coaches happy and keep players happy with each other too, right? Now you've got this unheard of element of appeasing the crowd and all the things that come along with that.
Everybody seems to have an opinion nowadays, especially towards an official or an umpire. How thick does the skin have to be, so to speak, to be able to wear those stripes or wear that blue shirt behind the dish?
It's very unfortunate, but if you don't have it, you can't do it. And guys are leaving the craft at an alarmingly high rate. So already being short, guys are not coming back because of it. I can't remember the time I've worked a game, other than, listen, football, soccer, you're out in the middle of the field, you can kind of get away from some of it there. But trust me, you go to these great communities like Louisville, they let you know when they disagree with something. There's nothing like working a football game in Louisville. But, you gotta have it, man. And it's all the way down now. I remember working youth sports, and people were just happy to see their kid on the field or on the court, and those days have come and gone. You're treated worse at a youth sports game as an official than you are in a varsity game, which is absolutely insane.
I was just going to ask you. It's a perfect segue into my next question. So, where do you feel like you get the most respect, and where do you feel you get the most flack from a level standpoint?
Yeah, so as an official, you have to bring to the table a high level of ability, and not just in rule knowledge and mechanics, but in how to manage the game and how to manage the players and the coaches. And if you do that well, my football crew is really, really great at that. If you do that well, varsity sports is the best place to be. If you struggle with those elements, any of those elements at a very small level, then you're better off kind of in that middle school bracket. Youth sports is the worst, no matter what, no matter how good you are. We have guys out there working state semifinals in basketball. They get booed off the court in a youth basketball game. It is Absolutely unheard of.
Is that just because every parent at that age feels like their kid's the next Mike Trout or Michael Jordan?
You know, that's some of it. You know, a lot of it is lack of knowledge, right? And listen, we don't officiate and call the game the same at a varsity level that we will at a 4th, 5th grade level, right? And there's a lot of reasons why you would never do that, because if we did, nothing would ever happen. You would just stand there all day long. So game flow, you know, a little bit of contact here or there is not as big of a deal. Taking a step, dragging a foot, you know, those are things you have to look over at some level. And if you don't, the game can't be played. So, you know, that's part of the craft, too, is knowing when you call it, when you don't. And that's part of it, you know, and it's not all their fault. Some of the frustration, too, you know. You see it on TV, you see it on the high school court, and you see it called one way, and then you show up for a youth game, and it's called completely different. But there's a reason why it's called completely different.
I'm interested, you know, we've talked about this officiating shortage that is happening right now. What's your feelings on the officiating shortage, and is it anxiety? Is it frustration? Is it nervousness? Is it, you know, sadness? What is the overall feeling for you when you think about what you're facing over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years in the officiating business?
Yeah, listen, I'm a 7-day-a-week official. 7 days a week I'm out somewhere officiating something. And it's overwhelming and it's tiring. And the quality of the game suffers. I definitely don't do as well on a Sunday as I did on a Monday because of the fatigue as the season wears on. It's a daunting task, and unless it gets better, it's going to get worse, and guys are going to stop. It's hard now to get guys to get out and officiate, even ones who have licenses, because people are overwhelmed.
And there's a lot of people with a lot of different opinions about why the officiating shortage is happening right now. You know, people talk about the money that the officials make per game. People talk about the time and you know, some of the things that you have to do, the kind of obstacles you have to climb over just to get your license and things of that. What do you see is one of the major challenges of this officiating shortage? I mean, is it the money? Is it the frustrations from the fans? Is it the players? What is it for you that you kind of see and you're like, okay, I can see their point here, and this might be a problem moving forward?
Yeah, fan behavior's got to be top of the list. And for a lot of guys, money is pretty close behind that. I think sometimes as officials we have to take a step back and look at why we're doing what we're doing, right? Not that money is not important, because it 100% is important. But breaking even or losing money to go out there and be mistreated is a tough pill to swallow. It's a really tough pill to swallow. Officials, in a lot of sense, we feel like we're an afterthought to the process, right? Because at the end of the day, if we don't show up, what happens? Are they going to play or are they not going to play?
Right.
If they want a quality game, they're not going to play, right? So figuring that out in the balance, and then, you know, finding guys that are committed. Man, 25 years ago when I started, it was hard to get games because there was an overabundance of officials. Today, at a much reduced rate, there's not a day that goes by that multiple assigners aren't asking you to work games. And listen, they'll rearrange games so you can be at one place at one time and another place at another time so they can cover 2 spots. Finding that balance in the commitment from guys and the understanding, and then, you know, hopefully these organizations, whether it be local schools or, you know, rec leagues, get involved and help us fix this, the anger issue in the crowd. However we need to do that, you know.
We've seen an uptick on ejections and things of that nature with officiating over the last year and a half, 2 years. I think there's kind of a fingers going both ways, where people in the crowd or on the benches are saying that referees have a quick trigger, and then you have the other side where, you know, guys like you were saying, you know, the crowd has become so unorthodox and crazy, and coaches have become so angry and quick trigger for them as well. Do you think it's a 50-50 thing? Do you think that people just need to understand a little bit more of where people are coming from? And we're living in the age of COVID still to this day, and everybody just needs to take a step back.
Yeah, I think we got to learn how to get along too, right? That's going to be a large part of it. I think in officiating, we get less tolerance towards the crowd than we do towards players and coaches. But unfortunately, player and coach behavior drives a lot of the crowd behavior, right? You don't ever see a quiet crowd if the coach is acting a fool. So, if we can balance this all out, and then teach guys, officials need to be taught too, right? When to get involved, when not to get involved. And every official has certain things, right? Certain things that are going to trigger that. And we just got to balance that out, and we got to learn to work together. And even on the officiating side, if we can calm down some of that off-field or off-court stuff, then we can start to work with, the younger, newer officials, or even the guys that have been around a long time that are just tired of it, because that's what it really boils down to. You try to officiate the game, you try to be fair, you try to keep everybody involved, and then how are you dealt with? A coach who tells you you're wrong, nonstop, continuously for 4 minutes. Players who tell you you don't know what you're doing, and then that gets the parents started, and then it's all downhill from there. And at some point, to be honest, you get tired of it. It is hard to deal with, and we're not talking 16, 17, 18-year-olds and up. Like youth basketball this year, we were dealing with it in 3rd and 4th grade. Players letting you know that you made the wrong call.
Wow. I mean, that's got to be a tough pill to swallow whenever an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old tells you how to do your job. That's got to be frustrating. So you are a glutton for punishment, and one of the things I love about you most is you care so much about these kids and sports in general, that you not only officiate now, but you also serve in a coaching role. What are the differences, major differences? Because a lot of times, parents and people that watch this show have been coaches before, but they never sat on the side of being an official or sat there very shortly before that seat got hot. What are the differences and maybe some of the similarities of being a coach and being an official?
Listen, I get the frustration from the coaching side because I had it many times this year. Raised my voice many times. Acted a fool many times. It is not every official is a good official by a long stretch, right? And I wouldn't say that I'm a good official. I try to do my best every time I go out there, and I try to be fair. And that's what I try to do. Whether I'm good, bad, or otherwise, if I'm fair and trying hard, I'm happy when I leave the facility. But, as a coach, to criticize officials a little bit, for guys who show up and it's obvious they don't want to be there, it's obvious they haven't put the time in to get good at their craft. That is tough to deal with. Absolutely tough to deal with. On the flip side, as a coach, I was absolutely mind-blown when I showed up to the first day of practice this year and just the lack of rule knowledge. The lack of knowledge across the board. That, for me, was, the most shocking part. How do we play a game and, not know how to play the game, right? X's and O's is one thing, but, X's and O's is nothing if you don't know what a travel is or a double dribble and things like that, right? So that, to me, was absolutely mind-blown. So we put a lot of effort into teaching the kids why it's a travel, why it's a double dribble, that sort of thing. Not that they believe me most of the time, but I tried hard.
Well, that's a funny thing because, you talk about in school, not everybody learns at the same rate. And teachers talk about this all the time. And this is a national narrative at this point is, not leaving kids behind in classes. But I'll speak from personal experiences. Listen, when they started talking about commas and semicolons and all the punctuations that they have to make sentences, I must have missed that day of class because I'm 37 years old and I still don't understand where to put a lot of these punctuations in sentences. It's the same thing in sports. If you're not educating these kids in what a travel is, where the strike zone is, and all the changing rules, nobody is getting a fair shake at this, and the kids won't understand, and they're going to look silly when they come up to guys like you and say, hey, you're wrong. because you're going to educate them, I'm guessing, pretty quickly on their lack of knowledge in the subject.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely a learning curve there. And I'm, by the way, just like you, my son's 11 in 5th grade, and he asked me for sentence structure help and stuff like that, and I just send him to Google because I don't get it either. But yeah, listen, like we talk about at practice, like a 2-hour practice, we're going to spend X amount of warm-ups, X amount of cool-downs, and X amount running, shell drill and through plays and new sets and defense. Nowhere in the practice is talking about full knowledge and doing some classroom work and stuff like that. So, reshaping a program to not listen is easy at the high school level where you have X amount of time and you can work with the kids and stuff like that. I can't imagine being a coach on the baseball field in the summertime without that structure and without the backing of the school and stuff like that, and dealing with the whole mix of kids and parents and sometimes from different districts and all that. So finding the time outside of the game, because that's where you got to execute on that knowledge, but finding the time outside of the game is going to be key to making kids that are really good athletes. You want to make a really good athlete great, teach them the rules.
I love it, and we don't hear that a whole lot. We hear, if you want to make a good athlete great, spend time in the batting cages, get on the sled, get in the weight room. Learning the rules is something that we're not pushing to our kids a lot. That's a very, very interesting point. All right, wrapping this thing up, Jerb. If somebody is crazy enough to get involved in officiating, how would you suggest they get involved?
Yeah, listen, so if you want to do summer stuff, you want to do rec league stuff, you want to do youth stuff, reach out to those local organizations. If you have a team in your community, reach out to somebody at the team and they'll point you in the right direction. One of those guys will know how to get a hold of me. I'm happy to help anybody learn or get through the process. If you want to do high school, if you really want to do high school and help out, but we're the most short, go to the OHSAA website. There's a tab at the top for officiating, and you go under there and you can look up a class, register online, and again.
I think we might have lost Jeremy. I think we lost him. Well, hopefully he bounces back. Obviously, it was one of those things where he was probably in a bad spot. He was on the road. We want to say thank you to my good friend, Mr. Jeremy Atkins Hill, for spending some time and going over that stuff. Hopefully you guys got something out of it, a little bit of a nugget of what referees have to deal with. And listen, I love him because he's a glutton for punishment. My guy is a coach and a referee, and he does it all the same constantly. I know that there were nights where he did his coaching, and then the next night he was out there in officiating. So he's done a great job. He continues to do a great job for these kids, for everybody involved, and he is the kind of guy that he will pull your kid over to the side and say, hey, I didn't want to blow the whistle, but I did so because X, Y, Z, and explain it to your kid. And like he said at the end, I think that was a great point that a lot of us don't really think of all the time, is we need to study the game a little bit more. We need to be, cerebral about how we play the game, as opposed to just pushing that we can run a 4.240 or bench press a dump truck or do all of this stuff. That's all great and that's all well and good, but if you don't have the mental side of being able to strategize and understand why the X's and the O's crisscross and things of that nature, then that's a big problem. That's a serious problem that hopefully is one that gets rectified, because abuse of officials is not going to help us in the long term in the grand scheme of things. It really isn't. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are going to say, listen, these officials stink. These are, I've caught myself saying it before, and listen, more than once. But the reality is what's your alternative, right? What's your alternative to these officials stink? Because right now they're talking about robot umpires in the major leagues and things. You can't argue. There's no human element to that. And I appreciate the guys and gals that come out on any night and are willing to, suit up and be on the main stage there and take the heat, because I'm not. I've done my fair share of umpiring when I was a young man, and trust me, I was barely old enough to drive, and in some cases wasn't old enough to drive and had to have my parents drop me off at the ball field, and I was umpiring, and this isn't new. I've had 40-year-old people yell at me as a 14-year-old, 15-year-old kid and tell me how it is and that I shouldn't be here and things. I'm not there because this was an opportunity, right? Nobody else was stepping up to the plate, so to speak, to fill in that void and just magnify it and push it, another 20 years. And still, my generation, our generation, no matter where you sit, is not stepping up and stepping in to be belittled and made fun of and constantly degraded at every turn. So when you're sitting in those bleachers, when you're sitting in that coach's chair, understand that the alternative is we don't play. We don't play. If we don't have officials, we don't play. And are they always going to get every call right? They're not. But they're not out to get you. And I think that's the biggest thing is fans are so rabid about, oh, this guy stinks, he's out to get. If you really thought he was out to get you, and your 15-year-old kid, and especially your 10-year-old kid, trust me that they don't care that much. Trust me that they do not care that much to go out and above and beyond their call of duty to screw over your kid or your team. Just stay the juice box guy at that point. Just grab a juice box and calm your tail down, because it's not helping anybody in the grand scheme of things by blasting officiating, by blasting the coaching, by blasting each and every part. Sometimes you just got to do that self-reflection, right? You got to look in that mirror and say, am I helping the process or hurting the process? That's what you have to believe and think of. And again, thanks to Jeremy for joining the show today. We're going to have a lot more conversations with a lot more officials, because I want to hear more and I want to bring you more about what these officials have to go through on a daily basis, a nightly basis. Because, folks, again, you think it's bad now. Wait till the days where not only do you have to pray for the sun to come out for, to have your game for a day like today in spring, but you also have to make sure you're lined up with officials, and those officials don't pull out, and they're accountable, and they're reliable. Just think about some of the places you work. I'm guaranteeing you know someone within your circle or someone that sits near your desk that you sit there and you go, that's not the most reliable guy, and I probably wouldn't have him officiate one of my son or daughter's games, because they're all out there. Just imagine. It can always be worse. So that is going to bring us to our Joe Dickey Electric What's Your Spark, presented by our friends over at DickeyElectric.com. Hit the graphic. Joe Dickey Electric is where the spark comes from today. They are based out of North Lima, Ohio. And, of course, if you can't make it to North Lima, head over to DickeyElectric.com. Make sure you send them a thank you, because they've been proud supporters of YSN since day one, and proud providers of electricity here in the Valley, and proudly powering the Valley. There it is. Proudly powering the Valley since for over 60 years. So thank you to Joe Dickey Electric and my good buddy Eric Carlson over there. So my spark today, a lot of it is what we've already talked about, but I will say this. I'm really interested in just the unseen sports, the untapped sports. We had a great coaches roundtable, the inaugural coaches roundtable last night for track and field in the All-American Conference. And we had 4 out of 6 of the teams show up and discuss it. Another one we're going to have privately. They just couldn't make the scheduling work out for them. So I'm really excited for these sports like track and field, like lacrosse, like bowling, you name it, right? Some of these sports that don't get any attention. We really want to do hockey. There's so many sports locally that get zero attention and have gotten used to that. And that makes me incredibly sad, because these kids put in every bit the amount of time, and a lot of times above and beyond the amount of time that they need. I mean, hockey players sometimes get up at 3-4 in the morning just so they can get ice time, and then they have to go to school and do that whole shebang. Mike Ackelson can tell you all about that. But I'm so excited, and why I talked about the sadness of why it makes me sad that they don't get any attention. I'm excited for the opportunity to be a part of fixing that problem. A part of, we're going to cover lacrosse, we're going to cover bowling, we're going to cover the track and field, the swimming and diving, these sports that need covered just because it's not convenient for the media to go out and cover them. And again, you talk about officiating coming to a head. The media is coming to a head as well, because there's just so much to cover and not enough people and not enough territories to cover it. From the standpoint of, if you don't know, many of the sports guys or gals are pulling double duty as news photographers and news videographers and writing stories for the news, and they don't necessarily always pull the sports card. So it's one of those things where you sit there and you want to be able to constantly give these kids what they deserve. We're in the great fortune. We have the great fortune to do that, and we're looking to do that. And it starts with track and field this year. Donnie Riccatelli is going to head really our track division. Chris Ziegler has also volunteered as well. So two guys that know a lot about track and field going to be heading that. We're also, for better, for worse, we're going to be having our first ever Big Dogs of the Valley track and field nominees this year. So make sure you get your nominees for that, and it will, in addition to our baseball and softball as well. We're just looking to, again, put these kids' names up in lights so that way they can be seen. And if this is something they want to pursue at the next level, because if you saw the roundtable last night, we have 3 local universities that are a stone's throw away from our high school campuses, and they're looking for our athletes in more than just the major sports. They're looking for our student athletes in the other ones, such as track and field and lacrosse and golf and hockey and you name it. You can go on and on and on, swimming and diving. I'm excited. It's a good spark. It's a good day, having those conversations with coaches, keeping them involved in the conversation, giving us ideas about how we can better represent these kids and give them a better opportunity to represent themselves. That's what it's all about here at YSN. And last night was a great night at the bunker. Looking forward to Thursday, as well, as we will not have a show, but we will have the opportunity to come hang out with us 12 to 6 at the bunker in the Southern Park Mall. Come hang out. We're going to have the golf simulator going and 4 TVs going, so you won't miss a dribble of the game in March Madness on Thursday. So come out and hang out with us at the bunker. I know Jonah, who is the main man out there, would love to see you out there. Food was phenomenal, and the atmosphere is even better than that. So that's going to do it for our show today. Thanks to Jeremy Atkins Hill for stopping by. Thanks to you for tuning in. Appreciate you doing that. Join us tomorrow 3 to 4 right here on Your Sports Network. Till next time, we'll see you.
YSN thanks you for watching this presentation of Your Sports Network.